Hello. Okay, we're going to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about, I want to give you a spoiler free take on Spider Man, brand new fucking day. I want to talk about, I had my first Whatnot sale this week. Are you on the Whatnot? Have you heard of the Whatnot? I'm telling you, all the kids are doing it. So I had my first Whatnot show this week. And this is the part I want to talk about the most, and that's why the market pays what it pays for key issues. You'll never really hear me talk about what books to buy. Why a key is worth 50 times the issue next to it on the shelf. I want to arm you with fundamental thinking that helps you buy comics better. And I base a lot of my philosophy on economics, and I'm pulling from Gregory Mankiw's economic textbook. And we're going to talk about the concept of thinking at the margin. But before we get into that, let's talk about Spider Man. First of all, I want to know what you thought of Spider Man. I want you to tell me what you thought of Spider Man. And if, it's Sunday morning. By the way, shout out to James from Code Blue Comics. Sent me the comic I bought from him, one of the Dirty 2 Dozen books. And he just happened to package a little Dirty 2 Dozen cup there for me, which I filled with not my favorite beverage, but it's a beverage that'll do for the morning, a Sunday morning, and not a Saturday night. But anyway, yeah, it's not Blanton's, James. It's Diet Pepsi, if you must know. Cheers. All right. So, Spider Man Brand New Day. I went with two people who are not comic book fans. I'm not saying they don't like comic books, they don't collect them. One guy, that I went with has no idea. I mean, literally, what I did is that I created a kind of everything you need to know before you came to see the movie. And I gave that to him, and he said he read it, he appreciated it. And I guarantee you he needed it. Because otherwise, why does everyone forget who Spider Man is? So, anyway, I loved the movie. I did. I love the movie. And I don't think we're going to see another comic book movie, and especially a Spider Man movie like it. I could be proven wrong. But I think this was so unique that it will probably never happen again. So, what made it different? And again, this is spoiler free. What made it different is the fact that it was a real movie. It was a comic book movie in that it was set against some pretty fantastical kind of context, you know. But what set it apart was that all the actors reacted to these fantastical situations in a way that was very human, in a way that was very real. I never felt like, oh God, that's dumb or that's stupid. Why'd they make that choice? Like my friend next to me, who's again not a comic book fan, at the end of that film, he could not help but clap. It was outstanding. They had and they showed a lot in that film, and there were Easter eggs all over it for core fans. But the real value of it was in how real it felt from an emotional standpoint. You know, and Marvel historically has done this better than anyone. Like that, the scene in Endgame when, the Falcon calls out on your left. From that scene, for about the next 5 minutes, when all these motherfuckers show up that you haven't seen in 5 years, I still bawl like a baby. I do. I well up. I tear up. It fills me with emotion. No one can do that like Marvel. At least yet. So anyway, go see the fucking movie. That's my review. Go see the fucking movie. Prepare to be moved. I had my first Whatnot sale this week. And the way I structured it was that I created a Whatnot show that was all around Spider-Man. And I've been thinking about this for months. And, I have a buddy of mine who fucking signs up for salsa dancing classes and never shows up. And he always fucking pays for the salsa dancing class and he never shows up. Finally, he did. And after like the fifth time of signing up and never showing up, finally had the balls to show up and go to salsa dancing classes. I have scheduled so many shows on Whatnot and fucking chickened out at the last second. And I'm like, you know what? I've got all this fucking Spider-Man inventory that I really need to do something with. And it's like, why not do it on the week of Spider-Man when Spider-Man's released? So I had this all Spider-Man show, and it was mostly almost 100% amazing Spider-Man stuff. And I just thought the theme was going to go well. And what I also thought was that I saw when I viewed other shows, my favorite format is by a guy named Earth Creature Comics, who has this spinning comic book stand. They used to have them. He found one and he loads it with comics. And when you win an auction, you get to pick something off the spinner. I was really inspired by that. So what I did is that I had 4 comics in an area that could be seen. And when you won an auction, you got to pick one. And I thought it was awesome. And I love that because, when you put up a book and nobody wants it, that's because you're trying to shove that book down their throat. And they're like, I don't want that fucking book. I want another book. And so why not put 4 out there at least and let them choose? And out of the 32 books I sold, only one was not chosen. We went the full 30 seconds with no one bidding. And it's like, fine, let's wipe the board. Let's just take the 4 comics out and replace them with 4 new comics. And it was the only time someone didn't bid. Prep time, I took virtually no photos except for the photos that were in my Buy It Now. So it was virtually the only prep time it took was like, okay, where's my boxes of fucking Spider-Man shit that I'm going to put out? And then I did make 2 mistakes. Number one, I'm such a fucking noob at this shit. I inadvertently set all my auctions to go off at 30 seconds, which I think is too much time. And I'm not smart enough to know how to set it for 10. So we sat for 90 minutes for a 30-second auction, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But by the same token, I wanted to set it for 10 seconds. Bam, bam, bam. I could have sold a lot more. I made another mistake. And I don't have a good reason why I did this, but my shipping was set for the max. And I don't know about you, but these typically don't cost a max. I digress. And I got feedback from someone who was like, man, you just charged a lot for shipping. I'm like, I did. And I need to not make that mistake again, because I don't want you to think that I want you to think I'm incompetent. I don't want you to think I'm mean. You know what I mean? I'd much rather you think that I'm an idiot than I'm just mean. And so the way I'm going to show that I was incompetent as a noob my first time is I'm going to take better care of my shipping the next time I do the show. Okay, very good. All reports were that people had a great time, and I work at it. I really did. I worked at it, and at the end of the show, I was fucking exhausted, folks. Deep down, I'm an introvert, and I spend a lot of energy moving into an extroverted state. And I do it to a point that at the end of it, I just want to crawl into a fetal position and stick my fucking thumb in my mouth for like an hour. And because I was gonna do a video after this, or after I did my show, to talk about it, and I couldn't. I was just like so spent. And it's a lot. So, or at least it is for me. So I am going to do another show, and I think it's going to be an all Batman show. And I'll let y'all know when it will be. Um, but anyway, yeah, it was. I really look back on it as a positive experience, and I think I can improve upon it. So that's it. Now let's talk about the value you place on comic books. Now, I'm not, like I said in the beginning, I'm not telling you which keys or what books to buy. I want to answer a different question. Why does one issue in a run, like say Absolute Batman 1, sell for more than what the issue right next to it sells for? And when they cost the same $3.99 on the stand? The answer is entirely about the margin, not the story. Value is set at the margin, like the extra thing that exists for that particular item. It's not valued as a commodity where everything else is the same. So when you check out Gregory Mankiw's Principles of Economics, his third principle is that rational people think at the margin. And one of the oldest applications of that idea in economics is the diamond and water paradox. Water is essential to life and cheap. Diamonds are completely fucking unnecessary and expensive. And economists for years couldn't explain this until they stopped asking, what's the total value of water versus the total value of all diamonds? And they started asking, what's the value of one more unit? You know, water's abundant, so the next glass is nearly worthless. Diamonds aren't just scarce, but it's hard to get them. Right? You got to be in an area where they fucking have diamonds, and then you got to dig and have people dig to fucking bring them out. And then you've got to craft them and cut them in a way so that people want them. So to create another diamond is truly precious. Price tracks the margin, not the category's total usefulness. So let's break the comic market into some subpoints. First, a good comic and a key comic can have identical total utility and a wildly different marginal value. That's why you can have this X-Men book be different in value to this X-Men book. This could be the most well-written, beautifully drawn issue with a print run of 300,000 and thousands of surviving raw copies, has a marginal supply that's basically infinite. And this is important from a buyer's perspective. It doesn't matter what the perspective is for you. Like, this is probably around a $700 book. As a seller, I can list it for $2,000. And there's no way a buyer is going to value this at $2,000 when they can find others for $700. And what you need to understand as the buyer is that's the power you have. And there's always another copy until there's not. Until you reach a situation where this is one of one or one of a few. You know, the first appearance, as an example, with a thin surviving population and top grade has almost no marginal supply left. I'll give you an example. I wanted to make a trade this morning for a Crime Suspense Stories 20. I know a guy in town who has one for sale. And it wasn't available, and now it is. So I asked him, what does he want for that book? He wants $1,700 for that book. Well, recent sales are around like 30 days ago. A 3.0 creamed off-white Crime Suspense Stories 20 sold for around $1,150. And he wants $1,700. Now, he's valuing it with regard to the margin of what else you could buy that for, because what he told me is that for other books like his, I can't find one for less than $2,000. It doesn't matter what recently sold to him, because the margin of finding that book that's not his is about $2,000. And you go to GPA and you look up, where this shit is sold. Collector Comics and eBay. And he's right. And that's how he's setting the price. And as a seller, when it's scarce, he has power. If I could easily find that book for $1,600, I wouldn't pay $1,700 for it. And to be fair, I don't want to pay $1,700 for that book, because there's always another copy. And I may not be able to find that book now for $1,700 or less, but I will be able to find that book. I'll either be able to find that book for less, or I won't own it at that value, or I'll buy a higher grade copy. That's the power you have as the buyer. You set the price as the buyer. The collector who has it does not. And sometimes the seller will set the price, as we've seen here, but you only set that price is if you pay it. If you pay what the seller wants. All right. Completion, like the demand inflates marginal value beyond what average pricing would predict. So if a number of people collectively together value that book on the margin and not just an individual, that's when the average pricing goes up. And so I'm looking for an X-Men, new X-Men, like 1991 X-Men. I'm looking for an X-Men 23 and a 38 and a 9.8. These are the last issues I need to finish a specific run related to X-Men. And the last issues someone needs to finish a specific run is worth more to that buyer in that moment than that exact same book would be worth to someone with no collection to complete. This is the nature of what a key is. This is why keys spike, around movie openings, a con. It's why the value goes up in an auction closing, because they have just one fucking chance to get the book they want. The marginal utility of that one unit to that one buyer in that moment temporarily overrides the steady state price. It's why you make fucked up decisions. Because all you want is the fucking book. Your life will be incomplete if you don't have that book. So, there's always another book. There's always another opportunity. People call it FOMO, fear of missing out. You just need to relax and say, I'll wait for the next one. All right. Grading census scarcity works the same way inside a single issue. Like, what am I talking about? Within a single key. All right, let's take Amazing Spider-Man 14, the first appearance of the Green Goblin. Each step up in grade shrinks the surviving population further. A jump from 9.2 to 9.4 might still have plenty of copies at that grade, but a 9.6 to a 9.8 doesn't. So that's why you see this huge fucking price jump between 9.6 and 9.8, because there might be 300 comics at a 9.6 and only maybe 50 at a 9.8. And that's why people are valuing the margin of that comic, the margin being what the difference is between the 9.6 and the 9.8. Now, there's so much volatility at a 9.8. I've learned to kind of stay away from them. Unless it's an absolute Batman. I don't think there's, I think a 9.6 and a 9.4 and a 9.2 and a 9.0 are about worth the same if you buy Absolute Batman. But a 9.8 is the margin. It's the marginal value that you're willing to spend. And when you move up, and so if you're going to buy an Absolute Batman, buy the 9.8 or the 9.9. Or if you want even more margin for that book, look for the ones that are signed. For me, I'm just going to share this. A signed Absolute Batman by Dan Quintana has a lot of marginal value to me because I think as an artist, he has the most artistic signature around. And you're moving up in marginal value and scarcity when you have a 9.8, and then you have a 9.8 that's signed. And then forget it, if you're moving to a 9.9, that's even more marginal value. And then if you have a 9.9 that's signed, you get what we had last month, which was an ash can sold for like $16,000. Absolute Batman 1 9.9 ash can sells $16K. That's the specific marginal value that you get. But let's fucking just get into what it all is and what you're actually paying for. Marginal value, and rational people think on the margins, is an observation. That's not the motivation. The marginal value of a slabbed comic isn't the slab. It isn't the grade. It's trust. That's what you're paying for. That's why graded comics are worth more than raw comics. And I fucking yesterday listened to a motherfucker who was bagging on graded comics. And in the same fucking video, he was lauding how he bought this comic for $30, had it graded for 20, and sold it for 1,000. And yet he hates fucking graded comics. I'm not going to call him out because there's no value to it. But I'm telling you, you've seen it. You know what happens. You know, if you watch these fucking videos, how people are complaining about fucking goddamn grading. And what they don't admit or they're ignorant to is that they benefit from it. We all do. We all fucking benefit from it. The plastic case, the label, that cost a few dollars in material plus a grading fee. That's not what you're paying for when you grade shit. You're paying for trust because a third party came in and said, this is an 8.5. And here's about what an 8.5 fucking goes for. Do you want it or not? You know, when they buy raw, they don't have to personally check for trimming, put it under like an ultraviolet thing to look for color touch. They don't have to worry about undisclosed restoration or an overly generous self-grade because a third party has already done that work and staked its reputation on the number on that label. And whether you think that reputation is worth a shit or not, I don't care. I care about trust and what they gave me, what I'm paying for when I buy that fucking graded book. I'm buying trust. And so are you. If you ever buy a graded book, you're buying trust. And that's why you need fucking CGC, as much as you may hate them, as much as you've been fucked over by them. And I've been fucked over by CGC. I'll save that story, but I've been, because it's not relevant right now, but I've been fucked over by CGC and I don't care, because what else am I going to do if I'm a comic book investor but deal with CGC, because what they provide is something that I can't create on my own. Trust. The marginal benefit is greater, of trust, is greater than the fee and the turnaround time. Those are the items that get slabbed. And if it's a $500 book, $1,000 book, or maybe a five-figure dollar book, you're paying to eliminate doubt of what this book is worth. I know, like that trade I talked about, I know that's a 3.0. I know it's a cream to off-white. I know what it sold for. And he knows that I can't buy it anywhere else right now. So we're at an impasse in the way we're valuing these books. But you know what? He's a smart dude, because he's most likely going to get what he wants for that book if someone wants it bad enough. So when someone makes you an offer, you're not, and you need to remember this, you're not the average seller in the market. You are the marginal supply for that specific buyer's specific need. Understanding why that book is scarce at the margin is what lets you judge whether the offer is fair. Instead of anchoring on what you paid for it or what a price guide says the average copy is worth. So shout out to that guy who's valuing his book at the margin based on what I can go get right now. I have no hate for that guy. I'm not mad. I admire it. That's my rant. I'm going to be doing some traveling in the next month or so. I'm going to be going to Terrificon next weekend. And if you're looking at this, reading this, watching this, please reach out. I'd love to meet you. Second thing, I'm going to the Collector Summit in September. Please reach out. I'd love to meet you. And I don't know what else. I have tickets right now to the Elite Expo in LA. And I'm going to LA for the Lucas Gala. George Lucas is having a opening of his Museum of Cinematic Art or whatever it is, and I'm going to that. And if you're going to that, let me know. I would love to meet you. So, but that's it, folks. Hopefully you found this valuable. And if you have any questions, please post them down below. I'd love to hear from you. Cheers, folks.